Sometimes I see the stupidest videos online. In this episode, and I hate calling out people, and I'm not going to call out any people today. There's videos online that make certain, in my opinion, exaggerated claims, and we're going to go over what two different raw vegan fruitarians ate in a day according to their shorts, and they're like, oh yeah, we ate this, and then I basically take the amount they ate, put it in a chronometer to show you guys how much protein they got to find out if they ate enough protein for the day.
So John's doing this too now. Well, this one's kind of funny because he's a raw vegan and he eats plenty of fruit, yet he's using reasoning that any raw vegan should know is ridiculous. Sure, I also don't recommend an all-fruit diet long term. It's hard to do it right in this modern world, and there's no reason to go that far. And nothing wrong with vegetables. John of OkRaw, he's been in this community since way back in the good old days, along with me, 2009. That's the year he started his channel. But in this video here, I want to defend a high fruit diet and point out some of the faulty reasoning that he had.
So now I want to show you guys the chronometer of one of the shorts I saw of a raw vegan fruitarian. So then, did they eat enough food this day? Yes, they had 2750 calories based on my estimations. But the issue is, if we go down to some of these highlighted nutrients, right, how much protein did they get, right? They got 37.2 grams of protein. Unfortunately, the title of the video says, I get all my protein from fruit. And the average protein for a guy is, I would say, at least 50 grams of protein for a normal-sized guy. You know, this considers your height and weight.
So as you just heard there, John picked out two fruitarians on YouTube. Well, he cherry-picked two fruitarians. Two. He found two that were doing it wrong. I think it would be helpful if he told us who they were. It would even be helpful to them. John really went overboard with this video. A half hour long, and he spent 25 of those minutes talking about protein. Yeah, it's hard to believe. I think he's safely reached his monthly YouTube allowance of saying the word protein.
Protein, protein, protein. This person ate 37.2 grams of protein, which is not a whole lot. It does not meet the recommended daily allowance. In addition, you know, they're really not eating omega-3 fatty acids. That's another reason.
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I'll deal with that fat, the sexy omegas later. So then he goes down to see the protein, and he highlights the 37 grams being really low. Well, that's not low to me. That's about what I was getting for a couple of years, 2021 and 22. But that's when I was only eating like 1,600 calories. And it didn't negatively affect me. I'm now getting about 45 for the last year. Still no negative effects. I exercise all my muscles every day, not losing weight at all. He mentioned the person's calcium was really low, but he's using the RDA as a standard. And he should know that those numbers are not what you need. He did get one thing right about the RDA. The letters stand for recommended daily allowance. That's what's recommended for the overall population. He mentioned the person's calcium was really low, but he's using the RDA as a standard. And he should know that those numbers are not what you need. He did get one thing right about the RDA. The letters stand for recommended daily allowance. That's what's recommended for the overall population. And calcium in particular is set very high. That's because of the epidemic of osteoporosis, which is suspected of being caused by too much protein. Fruitarians don't eat much protein, so they don't need as much calcium because protein leaches calcium. He talks about leaching.
So you guys could clearly see, in my opinion, this raw vegan is deficient in protein because they're eating enough calories, right? But they didn't meet their protein requirements at 52 grams a day, right?
Not exactly right. Yes, 52 is the RDA. But did you catch what he said? Did you catch it? Earlier, he said that RDA was recommended daily allowance. But did you hear what he said here?
They didn't meet their protein requirements. It does not meet the recommended daily allowance. Their protein requirements, recommended daily allowance. Protein requirements, recommended requirements.
The RDA is a recommendation, but it's not a requirement. And it's pretty clear when you look around that the RDA is not required for most people. Take a look at Doug Graham. He's been eating a fruit and vegetable diet for 30 years now.
There is no medical condition known as too little protein. This doesn't exist in medicine.
The government's RDA for protein is set high, and they even say that they are erring on the side of caution, the safe side, for rare individuals who have problems with absorption. So you may have heard before that the protein RDA is like twice as high as we need, and that's correct. And I'm living proof.
For instance, in an infant, eating a diet of pure mother's milk, showing the fastest growth spurt known to man. They're on a diet where they're only eating 6% of their calories per day from protein, mother's milk being 6% calories from protein.
Next up, another raw vegan. What I eat in a day? Fruit. Not going to say who it was, but she was like, I eat a bunch of watermelon. I ate 4 apples. I ate 6 oranges. I had 4 medjool dates. And then, we could go down and see how much nutrients they got.
So John pointed out that this case study here is getting around 2,000 calories. And that's also about how much I get. He started using apples as an example of fruit being low in protein. I'm fully aware of how low apples are in protein. And I was thinking, as this video is going on, I've never heard of an apple mono diet. There aren't people just eating apples. Looks like nature made it that way on purpose. I find I can't eat more than 2 without just feeling bad. There's unsatiating feeling. And if you really are not getting enough protein in your diet, your body's going to turn its hunger up and your desire for variety. Anyway, a few seconds later, he started mentioning a mono apple diet. It's He made that up. No one's doing that. At least not for more than, a day or 2. But what people are doing for more than a few days is fasting. And people aren't wasting away from, a fast every once in a while of moderate size.
Calcium, definitely better than the first Fruitarian, but still not meeting the calcium needs. And, in addition, some of the B vitamins were a bit better on here, but to eat only this in a day, I would say is not healthy.
Well, I agree. The person was eating 1,700 calories, and that was just one day. Very limited. The Fruitarian community has been teaching what John is teaching here for 12 years now, that you need to learn a lot about it and get a lot of calories in. As some people, have been saying, maybe that Fruitarian does eat a lot of variety and doesn't eat like that every single day.
Do you think it's sufficient? And, probably a lot of even vegans probably question, a fruit-based, vegetable-based diet. So if you can please just kind of go into the whole protein thing.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's one of those, I think it's almost a cosmic joke. The people on the standard Western diet ask the vegetarians where do they get their protein, and the vegetarians then ask the vegans, where do you get your protein? The vegans ask the raw fooders, where do you get your protein? And the raw fooders ask the guys on the 80-10-10, where do you get your protein? Do I look like I have a protein deficiency? Even for muscle growth, when you actually look at how many grams of protein are required for muscle growth, my chart that tells us how much protein are in various foods, what you'll find is that with only 1 or 2 exceptions where the number is 10%, almost all fruits range between 3 to 9%, exactly what is recommended.
In addition, they're really not eating omega-3 fatty acids. It'll tell you how many grams of fat, and this is based on government recommended numbers. Now, whether you believe them or not.
Now, the thing with omega fatty acids, well, it's pretty similar, except when they put in the numbers into the RDA for omegas, well, they're only putting in the numbers because Well, they got to put in numbers as a target for the mass population. The RDA is even a looser situation than with protein. Protein, you could get a deficiency with apples, or if you don't eat enough. But with fat, it's really impossible to get fat deficiency. There's no such thing as a fat deficiency. We low-fat eaters made up that term many years ago as a way of making fun of people suggesting that we don't get enough fat. But they never used the term fat deficiency. We made this up, and now, just in the last year, we're hearing people actually saying this term. The place where Americans get most of their fat is from meat. But the diet of those cows is super low in fat, as low as you could get. The cow's body makes its own fat. And specifically with omegas, all that is important is that you get 3 times omega-3 than 6. Which guess what? Guess what kinds of foods have that ratio? And he said you don't get any omegas from fruit. He said that. And that's where I get almost all my fruit is about 5 to 10% fat. Mostly omega. And that, guess what? That's what's recommended. Like the Pritikin diet and a bunch of other low-fat diets. Nearly all of China ate that much fat for like 1,000 years or so, up until the last 10 or 15 years. Now they're having problems. Another problem I spotted in his video is when he went to tell people how to find how much protein they need for their weight, etc. He went to a website, a Harvard website. But just a year ago, I realized that Harvard has an anti-vegan streak.
Government recommended numbers. Now, whether you believe them or not, you could say, oh, I don't believe those and we need way less protein. Well, then I'll say good luck to you.
This is the time, the only time you have. I see some problems with John's diet that he probably doesn't see. He eats and juices a lot of vegetables, especially greens. And wasn't there a case on YouTube of someone who turned anti-vegan because she was juicing a whole bunch of spinach every day? I was watching this YouTuber the other day, and he was putting down a high fruit diet. And I noticed his voice sounded like he was stuffed up, and his face was really puffy. I'm not going to say who it was.
They think that they're helping the planet, but all the transportation for these.
For every argument I have ever heard in favor of veganism, I have also heard a counter argument. Okay, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, we call it whataboutism, and we have won that debate. Vegans have won all of these talking points years ago.
Should get our protein from these sources. Okay, but if everybody were to get the protein from those vegan sources, you would need monoculture.
We already have monoculture because most Americans are getting most of their protein from beef. And cows eat about like 2 or 3 different foods. Corn, alfalfa.
We get our protein from avocados and almonds. Okay, but the amount of water that
I was just thinking, protein's actually not an issue. Are we still talking about this?
Protein.
Are we still talking about this?
Protein.
Very high in protein, putting a lot of protein-rich ingredients.
Not getting enough overall protein.
Protein.
Vegans need a little more protein because protein
aren't even hitting their minimum protein requirements.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
What the fuck is he talking about?
What?